Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your morning briefing for Tuesday, 30 September 2025. This is Robert staying in for Mike, and let's go ahead and jump inside the Beltway. So today, a group that calls itself a Strategic Donor Collaborative and Strategy Hub called Way to Win is hosting an event for progressive Democrats and political strategists in Washington, D.C., and it's going to be called Persuasion 2025. According to Way to Win founder Jennifer Fernandez Ancona, this event is going to diagnose the Democratic Party's failings in 2024 and propose a path forward to win elections. So far, the only people who I know or I've found that are going to attend are Representative Greg Kazar, progressive from Texas, Senator Chris Van Hollen, and one of Zohran Mamdani's 2024 or 2025 mayoral campaign strategists. And there are going to be other progressive influencers that are attending this event. And I think this is a competing effort with a similar conference that was held earlier this year by a more centrist Democratic group called Third Way. And this is part of the ongoing fight between centrist Democrats and the far left and progressive factions of the Democratic coalition over how the party is going to move forward. Also in D.C., Senators Chuck Grassley, a Republican from Iowa, and Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois, introduced the bipartisan H-1B and L-1 Visa Reform Act. And this bill is going to impose new wage and recruitment standards for any employers who want to employ H-1B visa workers. And I think more importantly, this bill is also going to require employers to post job openings on a public-facing Department of Labor website. So previously, employers that wanted to use H-1B visa employees would post these job listings in obscure job boards and small town newspapers in order to meet a legal requirement for advertising these jobs so American workers can apply for them. And now they will no longer be able to do that if this bill passes, because now there will be a public website that Americans will have access to see what these jobs, H-1B visa jobs, are and potentially apply to them. Moving over to the domestic side, the Department of Justice announced yesterday that it signed a memorandum of understanding with the Nevada state government, and they're going to fully cooperate on immigration enforcement. Attorney General Pam Bondi said that the DOJ is fully committed to eliminating sanctuary policies nationwide and urged other sanctuary states to negotiate with the Trump administration. Yesterday, President Donald Trump signed a proclamation. He's ordering 10% tariffs on lumber imports, 25% tariffs on what they called imported upholstered wood products, and 30% on imported cabinets. This begins on the 14th of October. And according to this order, these tariffs are going to increase significantly starting on January 1st of next year. Reading through this proclamation, I thought it was interesting that the justification used is national security vulnerability due to wood product inputs for defense. And I think this is an example of how the Trump administration is going to word these tariffs and the justification for them going forward to try to get around or through some of these lawsuits that the Trump administration has faced over tariffs that Trump has implemented since January. And then finally, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe, a Republican, signed a new mid-decade congressional map into law on Sunday. And this map is designed to flip one of Missouri's two Democrat-held House seats to the Republicans. So far, the response has been multiple lawsuits. Democrat-aligned groups, including a group called People Not Politicians, did file a lawsuit to try to block this map. And there's another lawsuit that's trying to force a statewide referendum vote on the new map. And Jared, if you come on and take us through the global sit rep, please.
Absolutely. We're going to start off just just north of the southern border over in McAllen, Texas. On Friday, the U.S. hosted Mexican officials for the first official U.S.-Mexico Security Implementation Group meeting. Now, this is, as the title suggests, the group is going to oversee Mexico's expansion of several different ballistic tracing technologies to all 32 of Mexico's states. And the U.S. also created an information sharing hub for the Departments of Homeland Security and Justice, along with their Mexican counterparts, to actually share information and reports on drugs, chemical precursors, firearms, and illicit fuels. So they will actually be tracking crime across the border. And one of the more interesting parts of this is that they're also going to target illicit finance across the border as well, and cooperate on civil asset forfeiture between the two. Moving much farther south, Colombia's President Gustavo Petro announced he's going to be terminating all ambassadors who do not align with his foreign policy in response to the U.S. denying visas to Colombian officials that were attempting to attend the UN General Assembly last week. Petro accused the ambassadors who already had approved visas of representing what he called feudal diplomacy. And effectively what he's doing is accusing Colombian ambassadors of working for the United States. And this is actually kind of highlights an ongoing issue where Colombia has tons of government officials that actually align more with the United States than the Colombian head of state right now. We saw that a couple of weeks ago with the mayoral delegation.
Yeah, that was actually my question. Is this basically a political purge of Gustavo Petro's opposition? That are these ambassadors who remain from the previous administration?
I did not see if they were ambassadors from the previous administration. It wouldn't be shocking to find out that there are plenty of holdovers. Just Colombia being a major non-NATO ally, being that they have worked well with the United States of America for decades, it wouldn't be shocking to find out that there are many more that actually like to work with the U.S. than don't. That said, I think it does point toward it. If it is real that there are, tons of government officials just hanging over from the time when they were working well with the United States, I think that's going to influence the election that they have. I believe it's in May of next year, where they will probably come back on side for the United States instead of shifting toward China and toward Venezuela. Then moving over to South Korea. South Korea's defense acquisition program announced an almost $3 billion award for 4 Bombardier Global 6500 aircraft and the U.S. defense contractor L3 Harris to install early warning radar systems on them. Now, the DAPA here says that this project is going to allow around-the-clock aerial surveillance capabilities against enemy air threats. They're basically turning the entirety of South Korea into an early warning system. And keeping in mind all of this money is flowing back into the United States via the L3 Harris installations. And then moving over to Europe, Denmark's going to host German, French, and Swedish troops under a NATO command to counter drone incursions over Copenhagen because they're hosting an informal EU summit this week. And we covered the unknown incursions of over Denmark last week. Denmark's prime minister actually accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of attempting to divide Europe due to that, though all of the investigatory bodies have refrained from saying that Russia was actually behind those incursions. So it looks like she's actually moving forward on that regardless.
All right, thank you for that, Jared. Let's move on to a protest for today. We are tracking 82 protests across the United States for today. And we're going to move over to the high side briefing, where we are going to cover the impending government shutdown later tonight. Senator Chris Murphy urging Democrats to fund a mass mobilization ahead of next year's election, and a potential federal surge into Minneapolis, Minnesota, and also Trump's plans for a Gaza peace deal. If you'd like to join us on the high side, you can go to forwardobserver.com/trial and get a 7-day free trial. Jared, could you take us to the high side, please?